Hey, happy Monday. Man, I'm happy to be here with you today. You know, I love starting Mondays out on a great foot with high energy because, have you ever wondered why we're all so into New Year's resolution? It's because it's a fresh start. And I view Monday as a fresh start. I know a lot of people view it as, oh, great, Monday, but I love to view it as a fresh start. And our perspective is everything, right? How we see the world is how we experience the world, right? We don't experience really just life in general. We experience the life that we focus on. So I choose to focus on Monday being an amazing, energizing, fresh start to the week. So I hope you can feel that today. This week, I've been thinking about this whole, I guess I have to say, trend of this authenticity. Now, I don't believe authenticity is a trend. I just think that we've kind of slipped into this almost, like I said, almost like a trend where everyone's saying, you got to be authentic. You got to be authentic. And here's how to be authentic and do it like this and do it like this, which to me sounds so funny because it's like if you're following the crowd and you're starting and you're just trying to copy everything that they're doing, then it kind of defeats the purpose of being authentic, right? Have you ever heard someone say, be totally authentically you, right? What does that really mean, right? Well, here's the thing. There's a complete difference between following the crowd and truly embracing who you are, who truly, knowing who you are and embracing your gifts and your own personality. Because here's the thing, it's amazing how difficult it can be to embrace yourself. That sounds so funny because most of us are like, well, I am me, right? So do I have any other choice? But what I mean by that is that most people, including me up till, real recently, and sometimes I fall into this trap too. We all fall into this trap, but we have this tendency to try to hide who we really are. In this world of, anonymity and all these filters and all these things on our phone that we can make ourselves look different, sound different, it can be really easy to become a poser, a fake, or honestly, even a fraud. And there's reasons for that because the urge to fit in ultimately comes from one of our core human impulses, and that's the need to avoid pain. There's two basic impulses that humans have: the need to either move away from pain or toward pleasure. So when you don't fit in, you start to feel like you're in pain because what happens is when you don't fit in, your brain starts to respond like you're in danger. And then obviously danger is the precursor to pain, right? When you feel like you're in danger, your brain is saying there's pain is coming down the line. There's going to be pain soon. So pain is assumed in that situation. So we want to avoid the pain, which is, the humiliation or the social anxiety or the the need to really be part of the tribe. And so we do everything we possibly can to avoid that. And sometimes that looks like trying to copy other people because we realize that they're getting the pay or they're getting the pleasure, they're not getting the pain, right? They're getting all this attention. And so we just try and copy what they're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that you shouldn't model proven practices. I've talked about that before. I think that there's a difference between using strategies and just trying to copy someone's identity. There's a complete difference there. So take their strategies, but turn it into something that you can use in your personality, because that's what not only what people are going to respond to, that's what's going to make you feel fulfilled. So back to pain. So we're talking about pain and the need to avoid pain and the urge to go toward pleasure. The interesting thing is humans they'll actually, for the most part, will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. It's interesting that way. So that's how we end up trying to mimic others, because we start to compare ourselves, because they're getting all the attention and they're not getting the pain, they're only getting the pleasure. Of course, we're only seeing one side of it, right? We all know, we've all got this secret life, if you will, and we're only seeing one part of it. But that's why we start to compare ourselves. But here's the thing, our brains will compare automatically. This is actually a self-preservation response, because obviously we have to compare things. We wouldn't be able to differentiate anything at all if we didn't compare things. If you got to know the difference between, a loaf of bread and a snake. And a stupid example, but you got to know the difference. You got to be able to compare things. So it's a natural response that our brain has developed, or that has been created with, but it's an impulse that's kind of been taken to the extreme in the world that we live in. So when we start to compare ourselves to others, whether we think they're smarter, or they're richer, or they're better looking, or maybe they've achieved more, it starts to make us feel inadequate. It makes us feel this feeling of inadequacy. Have you ever had a situation where you've started to compare yourself to someone else, and then you start to feel inadequate? I did that at several different points throughout my career, and several different points throughout my personal life. When I first started my first company years ago, I would relentlessly compare myself to others. And I would start to, what happens then is you start to sabotage yourself, because then it starts to kill your momentum. It starts to kill your confidence, and you start to doubt yourself. And it's just this vicious spiral, downward. So when we feel inadequate, we start to feel guilty, right? Because, well, we should be this way, or we should be that way. By the way, I would recommend, this is kind of a side note, but I would recommend getting rid of all the shoulds in your life, and turn the things that you really, really need to accomplish into musts instead of shoulds. Otherwise, you end up shoulding all over yourself. So anyway, so when we have these feelings of inadequacy, we start to feel guilty. And when we feel guilty and inadequate, these can lead to feelings of envy, jealousy, resentment, bitterness. Because what most people do is they try to pull others down to their level, instead of trying to rise to another level themselves. So we try and pull them down, because we start feeling bad about ourselves. I feel bad that I'm not achieving the same level as that guy, or I haven't lost as much weight as her, or I don't make as many calls as him, or she knocked on 100 doors last week and I haven't done anything. So you start to compare yourself, you start to feel guilty, and then you start to get jealous, and you try and pull them down. So that's where this mentality of, well, you can say that because you're rich. Well, if you haven't walked in their shoes, then you don't know how they got there, right? So we try to pull them down instead of trying to rise to meet them. When we feel inadequate, when we start to feel that jealousy, we start to believe that we're not going to be loved, or we're not going to be valued. And this is one of the major, most important causes of pain in humans, is we all crave love and relevance more than anything. So if we think that we're not going to be loved, or we're not going to be valued, that will crush, our momentum. That will crush our goals. That will crush our spirit. So it's important to be able to feel loved and feel valued. And if you start to feel inadequate, then you start to go down this downward spiral, because inadequacy will also make us pull back. It's also going to make it to where we don't take risks, because we're afraid of what other people are going to think, right? Because ultimately, if you really think about it, the approval and the love of others is what leads to achievement, and different forms of power, right? And so we have to feel that love and that achievement and that value. But here's the thing. Here's the caveat. It is critical for success and fulfillment that we embrace authenticity, and we lean into who we were created to be. Instead of trying to mimic everyone, instead of trying to just copy everything they're doing. Again, this doesn't mean don't model proven practices. What I mean is trying to copy their identity, trying to be that person. And I know this sounds kind of funny because a lot of us really don't actively think about, well, I'm just trying to copy that person. But we don't realize how many things we try to just swipe and deploy, right? Instead of using our gifts and our talents to put our own spin on it, to find our own perspective. And here's the crazy thing is, there are people out there that can only hear from you. There are people out there that can only hear from me. There are people out there that can only hear the message from you. They can hear it from someone else. They could hear the exact same thing, but if it's not coming from your personality, if it's not coming from your background and your angle and your perspective, they're not going to respond the same way. So that's why we're all different. So I've been talking about being authentic. I've been talking about really embracing who you are. So how do we embrace that authenticity? How do we become comfortable and embrace who we really are? Because that can be uncomfortable sometimes, especially when we're putting ourselves out there, especially when we're trying to build our business, or we're trying to build, our influence or our outreach. We have to be able to put ourselves out there, and we have to be genuine. So what does that look like? Well, there's a few things that I'd love to share with you that can really help you dig into who you really are, can really help you start to embrace what it really means to be you and what it really means to be authentic. And I mean the real, genuine, authentic alignment with the way that you were made to be. So, number one, stop comparing yourself to others. It's only going to produce pain. It's only going to produce feelings of inadequacy, and you're going to start sabotaging yourself. Number two, realize we're all on our own journey. We've all been through different things. We've all been through different challenges, and we all have a different background. We all have a different personality. We all have a different upbringing. So it's important to realize that we're all on a different journey. So here's the thing. Even if you tried to copy someone down to the last thing, you really couldn't, because you haven't been through the same things they've been through. And they haven't been through the same things you've been through. So you can't be someone else. You gotta really dig into who you are, because you have a different journey than they did. And it's important to remember that. Number three, share your story. Don't be afraid to open up and share your story. When you share your journey and the things that make you unique and the things that make your journey special, it's difficult to put on a face. When you're raw and real, people are going to respect your journey. Now, yeah, of course, there's going to be some people that don't. And you don't have to tell your whole life story. I'm not saying you go out there and you lay everything bare, but don't be afraid to be a little bit vulnerable. People can relate to what your journey and how you present that. Because here's the thing, you have your own unique identity, but we're all connected. And again, some people can only hear it from you. Number four, don't use filters. And I don't mean don't have fun and do the little, weird filters on your phone. I just mean don't try to be someone you're not. I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think that anonymity is a curse. I think in the world that we live in, there's so much we can do anonymously that it makes it really difficult to own who we are. Instead of putting your name behind it, you can just go on there and you can bash someone online or whatever, and you don't even have to deal with the consequences from it. Obviously, the consequences are happening in yourself because you're not leaning into who you are. I think anonymity is a curse. Now, I'm not saying that there are never situations where you shouldn't be anonymous. I'm not saying that. I'm sure there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, I think this culture of you can do things without having immediate consequences, I think can have real dire effects. Number 5, admit mistakes. Now, I know it's not fun to admit mistakes. It's not fun to admit that we've done something wrong, but it can be pretty hard to fake when you're admitting your failure. What happens there is you start to grow. It allows you to grow from that because you're admitting, I didn't do this right. Now, I'm not saying you admit it to everyone online. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying learn to admit when you have made mistakes because then you start to grow as a person. Number 6. Man, I'm getting ahead of myself. Number 6, embrace your gifts. I know I talk about this a lot. But when you find something that you're really good at, throw yourself into it. Really, really go in head first because we all have unique talents and gifts for a reason. Our Creator has given us each these things for a reason. Lean into those gifts, lean into those talents, those natural things that sometimes, let's be honest, we have no idea why we're gifted at that, why we have that talent, but we do. And so lean into it. Number 7, recognize and appreciate that everyone is unique and different. Now, I know this kind of goes hand in hand with a few of the other ones, but what I mean is that remember that being different is a strength. It's not a weakness to be different. We're all different on purpose. So this will naturally start to make you look within, and it's going to help you discover and recognize your own uniqueness and your gifts, because what happens is ultimately when we focus on the beauty of others, we truly start to embrace our own. Number 8, prioritize growth over achievement. We live in an achiever culture. Everything's about what we've done. Everything's about what we've achieved, what we have, what we've done, what we've accomplished in life. But ultimately, what makes people happy or sad is progress. It's not the achievement. It's not the thing that we've gotten. It's the journey that we're on. It's making progress every day. Because when we're constantly striving for improvement, it makes us have to face our demons, right? And this makes us realize that we already have what we need to succeed. We just have to embrace who we were meant to be and our own mission in life. And it's different for everyone. And then number 9, don't try to make everyone happy. Here's the thing. I heard this quote. I need to look up the quote. I can't remember who it was by, but the quote goes, I don't know the exact way or the perfect and flawless way to be successful, but I do know the perfect way to become a failure, and that's to try and make everyone happy. There are going to be people out there that don't like you, even your real, genuine, raw personality. There will be people that don't like you, and we're just going to have to deal with that. That's okay. Not everyone has to like you. It's so important to just be you. When I was years ago, when I first started my first company, my first home inspection company, I was at a real estate event, and after everything was over, I was in the food line, and I struck up a conversation with this great guy next to me named Mike, and we really hit it off, and we connected. And a couple months later, I get a call from Realty One of New Mexico. It's the biggest brokerage in all of New Mexico. That's where I was living at the time, and they invited me to come present, and I was psyched. This is awesome because I had been trying to get into this office for a while. And so when I got there, Mike introduces me. He's there, and I was thrilled. I said, "Thanks, Mike, for introducing me. Thank you for being here." Come to find out after the meeting, the guy is the owner and founder of Realty One. He's probably one of the most powerful men in real estate in the state of New Mexico. But here's the thing. I leaned into who I was. I didn't have any ulterior motive when I was talking to him in the food line. We just hit it off. I was just being me. He was just being him. And it opened up huge opportunities for me. So it's so important to be you. You will be amazed at the opportunities you will have access to when you just decide to be you instead of trying to impress people. Instead of trying to make everyone happy, just embrace the person that you were meant to be. So instead of focusing on and comparing yourself, remember how unique you are and how unique your gifts are. And focus on who you really are and who you are becoming. And hey, if you want some help to really start to compound that, to discover who you are, pick up my self-discovery journal. It's on Amazon right now. You can get just click on the link in my bio under right next to self-discovery journal. This is a great way to really start to discover your gifts. Because what happens when you journal is you start to compound your ideas and you start to understand what you're good at. Even if maybe it's not writing, but maybe it's music, maybe it's reaching out to people, maybe it's negotiation, whatever it is, maybe it's you know door knocking or social media or whatever it is in your case, whatever you're good at. This process will help you start to understand what you're good at and your unique perspective on life. So this is really cool. I built it just for you. There's a couple of elements in here. There's some quotes in there to really get you inspired. There's some challenges to help you grow. And then there's some insights to help you really reflect. So pick up my self-discovery journal on Amazon. And if you're a real estate agent and you really want to truly embrace your identity and learn how to connect with people on a deeper level by just being you instead of trying to learn all these crazy tactics, learn how to connect with people and connect with the real you, click on the link in my bio and let's schedule a discovery session. Let's discover how to take you from where you are to where you want to go and how to connect on that deep, genuine level. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, there is no one else like you. See you soon. Bye.